Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about Day of the Octopus, which, to the best of my knowledge, is the first module ever made for the Marvel Superheroes role playing game by TSR. We played this one way back when, before I started recording the adventures on cassette tape. So sadly, I have no idea what anybody rolled during this game. So without the specific numbers, doing only the story by itself, this one is probably going to be an extremely short adventure. Anyways, before we get into said adventure, make sure you hit like, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave us a comment. That helps us out with the algorithm, but also we just love hearing from you guys. We've got an awesome group here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place in New York City on a pleasant Monday morning. Peter Parker is in the park across from the Krupp building when he notices a couple of well-known criminals named Turk and Grotto enter the building. So Peter sneaks off, changes into his classic red and blue Spider-Man costume, then swings into action. When Spider-Man gets here, Turk and Grotto are stealing the Mandroid armor that was stored in the Krupp building. Spider-Man beats them before they can honestly do much of anything at all. Crowd gathers around, and Spider-Man signs some autographs for children, which brings us to the main plot. The Krupp building is in the thick of things, and as such, gets heavy traffic. So four more superheroes happen to be in the general vicinity. They are Ben Grimm, John Redbridge, Monica Rambeau, and Steve Rogers. Before they know that Spider-Man already handled things, they hear the security alarm, which can't be shut off until someone from the security company gets here. So all of the heroes change into their respective costumes and make their way through the crowd, only to find out the crooks were already caught. From the other side of the park, Dr. Octopus sits in a U-Haul watching. The back of the truck opens, and by sheer coincidence, another group of villains prepares a theft of their own. As for the superheroes who are standing around, they get attacked by Beetle, Fixer, Radioactive Man, and Scorpion. So everybody dukes it out, and then once again, the heroes win. And while the heroes were more or less distracted, Dr. Octopus stole something called a Solectro Pack. Spider-Man sees Doc Ock's tentacle come up through a vent, so the heroes go down to where Doc Ock was, but he's long gone, vanished into seemingly infinite numbers of tunnels under Manhattan. Not long after that, Dr. Octopus interrupts all of the TV sets in New York, declaring that he's going to destroy the city. The heroes search for clues and succeed, tracking down Doc Ock to the old Globe Press building. The heroes enter, and what seemed to be skylights were really a trap for Captain Marvel. So when Monica Rambeau transforms into her energy form, she becomes trapped in these gadgets. However, the ladies' man, John Redbridge, smashes the device with his super strength, freeing her. Meanwhile, the heroes beat up Doc Ock, but it's too late. He's already activated his secret weapon, the Octodroid, which is a sentinel that Octavius has modified. The huge robot does its Godzilla impression, and the heroes fight it. The Octodroid hits them with stun darts, snare bombs, rockets, lasers, electrical attacks, a sonic beam, and even a flamethrower. But in the end, once again, the heroes overpower their opponent. Which brings us to our epilogue. The headline on the Daily Bugle reads, Octodroid stopped. Peter Parker is at home with his wife, Mary Jane, and their daughter, May. He reads the article and is extremely surprised that in his old age, J. Jonah Jameson may actually be warming up to Spider-Man. Ben Grimm walks down Yancey Street on his way to the Fantastic Four building when the Yancey Street gang starts insulting him, which does nothing to improve Ben's mood. Captain America is late for a speech that he has to give about Vietnam veterans. And John Redbridge asks Monica Rambeau out on a date. So they fly to New Orleans and eat some Cajun food. And that was the end of the Day of the Octopus adventure. To be honest, well, I'm of two minds on this. Part of it is I'm very nostalgic for it, right? And I have a love for it because it is a part of my childhood. But the other part of it is that I'm actually kind of not a fan of this if you really look at it, right? A lot of those early Marvel superheroes adventures were written for a younger age group, which granted was how old I was in 1984. So I get it. But in terms of story, stuff like Dr. Octopus building a giant robot that looks like him has more of a Super Friends feel to it, which again, I'm not trying to be insulting to either franchise, right? Um, it feels weird when characters like Venom and the Gray Hulk are like right around the corner. You know what I mean? It just doesn't match up. And of course, the guys at TSR had no idea where Marvel was headed. Marvel had just done things like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And this would be about the time that the Secret Wars toys were hitting. I was actually watching a video very recently about Secret Wars, and Secret Wars was one of those things where I read it. When I owned my comic shop, we always had a trade paperback of Secret Wars on hand, but it wasn't something people really ever talked about much, aside from saying that it was where Spidey got the Venom symbiote. So, having never heard otherwise, I had always assumed that the comic came first and then they made the toys later, but apparently it was the other way around. Marvel went to Mattel and wanted action figures made of their characters, especially since the Star Wars toys had been selling so well. So Mattel polled a bunch of kids, asking them various questions, and it turns out the kids of that era, who were my age, really liked the words secret and wars. Mattel also told Marvel they didn't want to get stuck making characters they thought wouldn't sell. So they gave Marvel a list of the characters they thought kids actually wanted. And that became the characters Marvel would then use when they wrote the Secret Wars comics. And what is, in my opinion, the weirdest part of it all is that the Marvel Superheroes role playing game would be the third part of this equation. Somehow they thought it would promote the other two. And I'm not complaining, mind you. If Marvel hadn't done that, it's weird to think how different my life might have turned out. It's just that up until now, in all the times I've played the Marvel RPG, not once has it ever reminded me of the action figures from 1984. But yeah, I thought that the Secret Wars connection was interesting. Hopefully, you thought that today's video was interesting. If so, as always, we would really appreciate it if you took a second to smash like, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and leave a comment. And from all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.